today. Do you want us to start, or do you want us to give another minute? Because I think we've got another 3 or 4 we're waiting for. You're on mute, Nicholas.
Yes, I think we can start with the agenda and the welcome, and then the other can join.
Okay, so welcome. Okay, we've done that bit. So nice to see you all. My name is Joe Confino. I'm going to help facilitate this process. We're really happy. We're really happy to see new faces, and also to see those of you who are joined us and are journeying this path with us. It's like meeting up with friends along the way. So thank you for sticking with us and showing your faith in the process. So really appreciate that. Nicholas, I'm going to ask Nicholas to just introduce what we're doing today. Then we're going to do, Thomas is going to do a short meditation just to ground us in the moment. Then we're going to do a sort of presentation, and then most of the time will be around breakout groups and working for our living, getting some ideas and some practicality. So Nicholas, do you want to just, why are we here? What are we doing?
Yes, thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. Nicolas from UNDP, calling from Hong Kong. And really good to see you all. There's some familiar faces and new faces as well. And people I see in different initiatives, different work streams. So it's really nice to be connected. So this, we're running a series of, we call mini workshop on the Conscious Food System Alliance. And this is the second one. We had one on the strategic vision for the Alliance late April. And today we're going to talk specifically about what we call the breathing and practice room. And I'm going to explain in a bit what it is all about. But basically, we're going to spend the next 2 hours on 3 questions. Maybe Alice can put them in the chat, but it's how can we set up a space together with core partners that is more intentional, connected, and transformative to achieve the vision of the Conscious Food System Alliance. A big question, I'm sure lots of ideas. And what is your energy, your personal energy, your edge going forward in terms of contributing to such a process? You know, when you think about system change, it's always good to look about where the energy is. And so we're interested to see as individual what's your interest. And we have also questions around what are the minimum conditions to launch such a process. So I'm aware that some of you are quite familiar with COFSA by now, but I can see some new faces as well. So let's see how we go around that. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a check-in first together, and then we're going to go in pairs to look at those questions. Well, I'm going to make a presentation about the concept. Then we're going to go in pairs, looking at those questions. Then there's going to be individual journaling. You know, what do you think? And then we're going to go in group of 4, and then back in plenary. So lots of discussion, lots of breakouts. Out of the 2 hours, I think we have 10 minutes presentation, and the rest is us talking to each other. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nicholas. But before we kick off, I'm going to just ask Thomas just to, as I said, just to land us in this present moment so we can be fully present. So Thomas, do you want to bring us back to earth?
Sure. Let's land together. So suppose that first we find a comfortable position, well seated, the spine upright, the feet on the floor, feeling the connection with the ground, with the earth, feeling the contact of my body with my seat. I bring my awareness to my breathing, my breathe in and my breathe out. can feel the movement of my belly as I breathe. In and out. I follow my breath in and my breath out from the beginning to the end. Breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body from the toes to the top of my head. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. In, aware of the body. Out, relaxing the whole body. I enjoy my breathing. I have nothing to do but be with my breathing. In the present moment, together as a group, we step in the safe island of mindfulness. We have arrived. Breathing in, I know all of us is coming with their best intentions. Breathing out, I thank all of you for being here today. Breathing in, I feel lucky to be here. Breathing out, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be together. To share the breathing, the silence, the space with all of you. Breathing in, I make space in me for what wants to emerge. Breathing out, I'm fully open to what wants to emerge. I know I am a cell of a larger organism that is taking shape. I'm ready to discover my role, my function in this organism. Now we will slowly come back to our bodies. I notice how I'm feeling now, what has changed in me. I feel what my body needs, maybe stretch a bit or yawn. That's fine, like this, Joe. Exactly. Take the time to come back for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I actually didn't want to come back to the meeting. I was very happy where I was.
That was a meeting.
But unfortunately, we have things to do. We're going to just ease ourselves in a bit. We're just going to spend 5 minutes just going into pairs. For no other reason than to enjoy life a little. And we're going to ask you to just chat in a couple of questions. We're not going to report back. It's just to sort of just say hello to someone. And we're just going to ask you to share 2 questions. What's the best collective process you have ever been part of? I don't know, Alice, if you can put this in the chat. And share 1 interesting thing you have been thinking about lately. So a really wonderful collective process you've been part of, and sharing 1 interesting thing you've been thinking about. And Alice, let's, because we're running a bit late, let's just do 5 minutes. And we're going to go into pairs, say hello to someone, share a bit, and then we'll come back and kick off formally. And welcome, Andrew.
Quite a few smiles.
Yeah. Rachel, nice to see your colleague behind you.
I know, sorry about that, babes.
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's called life. Great. Welcome, everyone, back. I hope you enjoyed that. The reason for doing that was really just because, you know, the Conscious Food Systems Alliance is an emergent collective, and it is about trying to do interesting things. So hopefully that's got you back in the sort of mood for things. Nicholas.
No, just to say, at least I'm hearing some crackling from either you or
oh, that's probably my zip.
you, so
yeah, thank you for that.
I don't want to know about that, but
I thought you were about to say I'm doing a cracking good job, but it was I'm crackling instead. Nicholas, I'm going to pass to you. If you could just take us through what we're doing. And Nicholas, you're on mute still.
1 second. Yeah. All right. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So the presentation was made with the thinking that most of you already know, because you've been attending quite a few workshops and discussion, and you've seen the concept notes, but I'm aware that some of you are new today. So let's see how it goes. So just in terms of key messages, basically the Conscious Food System Alliance is trying to pioneer the application of evidence-based methods to cultivate the whole human as a vital element to transforming the food systems. So connecting inner transformation and system transformation. And, you know, key message is focusing on that inner aspect is the right time. Obviously, all of you here knows. And what we're doing is seeking core partners to co-create the alliance and build the future we want. And it's definitely work in progress and emergent strategies. And what happened is that we're running a number of partner workshops that brings different people in. And as I mentioned, a couple of weeks ago, we had a strategic vision and approach workshop where we looked really at what does it mean, what do we mean by consciousness, what do we mean by a conscious food system alliance, etc. And we've identified a number of work streams to continue advancing the development of the alliance. And we said, you know, we need to work on a mapping exercise, doing a comprehensive landscape of what exists, you know, what are the best practices, building the evidence base, the research of how consciousness can support sustainability. We talked about partner outreach, donor outreach, how do we balance the vision with action going into prototyping. And we talked about what is the meaning of co-creation, you know, what does it mean to co-create something together? What actually do we want to achieve? What's a vision of a conscious food system, a vision of success? What is the link between inner and outer transformation? You know, we had all those big questions 2 weeks ago. Who should be part of it? How do we ensure equity, inclusion, etc.? And today we're going to talk specifically about a concept that we call the breeding and practice room. And here, for those of you that are new to COFSA, this is a bit the structure that is emerging and being presented at the moment is that there's three key components of the alliance. One is what we're going to focus on today, which is basically a core team of partners. We call it experimenting new ways of being and doing together. And I'm going to explain a bit more what it means. Then there's a learning room, which is all about the training offer, the curriculum on the interlinkages between inner and system change, where you have a number of delivery partner, knowledge partner, people who work on that deliver that training to food and agriculture change agents, which is familiar to a lot of you are working on those concepts. And then a community space, which is broader than the core partners, where you have all the institutional partners, individual practitioners, the alumni from you training, etc. So this is emerging, and we're doing those workshops to talk about those concepts one by one, to really see what you think about it. And if you're participating in the call today, normally it's because you've shown an interest to be a core partner, or you on the fence trying to understand a bit more if this is the right thing to do. And so today we're going to talk about that breeding and practice room. And there's a nice quote out there. Maybe can I ask someone, can I ask Jamie, can you read the quote that you see on the slide?
Sure. I believe that every home should have one room for breathing. Simple practices like conscious breathing and smiling are very important. They can change our civilization.
Thank you. And so the objective here is, as I mentioned, to bring together a group of core partners to experiment new ways of being and doing to achieve the vision we want to achieve on conscious food system. And it's basically a commitment to improve our ways of working and to walk the talk on consciousness. We're working for UNDP. It is a huge institution who have its own ways of working and its own limiting conditions. And how do we ensure that we're not just transactional, but that we really create something that is really intentional and transformative? And that room is also to co-create the infrastructure that we need as an alliance for the future of the alliance. And in terms of activities, it's basically, if you look at new ways of being, it's, it could be something like a learning journey for the core partners, as I mentioned, where we connect in ways that are more connected, relational, transformative. And then new ways of doing, it's all about how do you work in ways, again, that are more intentional in terms of prototype and more systemic in nature. And I'm going to explain those two concepts a bit more as well. But it's really trying to walk the talk on consciousness, so we don't spend only our time on webinars or on workshops, but we connect in different ways. And I think many of you in the room today have been doing that for many years, and we have a lot to learn from you guys. So, when we think systemic, many people have different views on what systemic means or system change means. Can I ask, who do I see? I don't see everyone. Alice, can you read the quote that is there?
For every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong.
I like that quote because, we're trying to simplify everything we do, and there's this silver bullet solution or etc. And if we are thinking about food system transformation, it's obviously complex. And so how do we bring into the room, systemic practices? And you can read some there on the slides. How do we embrace complexity, constantly question our assumptions? How do we enable the system to see itself? How we can work at different levels, breaking down silos, bringing different perspective, understanding power, etc., etc. And those are important because while you work on inner transformation, it's good to get that connection with the systemic space. And so that's one of the ideas to bring here, that systemic practice. And the structure is something like that. So some of you have been, working with innovation lab, public innovation labs, social labs. Some of you are familiar with Theory U and all those concepts. The Global Knowledge Initiative is doing a lot of that here today, and others. So, the idea is you have a convener that brings together that group of co-partner, let's say it's us, the organization represented today, the individuals today and others, together with the secretariats, and go into that journey. And then as you develop, you start identifying a number of actions that you can do, and some prototyping teams then get created, and off they go and start doing things on the ground, etc. And the idea is for the core team to be social, so that means it needs to be reflecting the diversity of stakeholders involved in the challenge. We're looking at 25, 30 people, should be multi-stakeholder in nature, ideally with government, civil society, private sector. And ideally, again, a mix of practitioners from food, agriculture system, consciousness, and system change. And so the convener, a trusted individual and institutions with experience in convening, whole person and whole system together, and some of the process of experimentations that we are interested here, like human-centered design, consciousness, theory, etc. So as you know, some of you have already expressed interest to join that core team, but you don't know exactly what it means. What does it mean to be a core partner? What does it mean, the breeding room? And so you can see some of the logos there. That doesn't mean you sign up or you sign a MOU or whatever. It's more that you've shown an interest to be closely involved in the co-creation. And I think those workshops are really behind the idea of co-creation, that we do that. We think about that together. So this is just one example of new ways of being, but there are many more. I put an example that many of you know, going, for example, through a Theory U process, but there are many other ways of experimenting, different ways of connecting and being more relational rather than transactional. You could have those workshops going through the Theory U process, and coaching circles, retreats, training content, etc. That's one idea about bringing people together. And today we're going to discuss, what's the best way to be more connected, transformative, and intentional. And when we talk about prototyping, I think there's a lot of confusion sometimes in terms of, we're just going to do pilots and bring them to scale. Here it's really about bringing a space for experimentation. And I bring here the field book that the Mindfulness Initiative and Jamie and others did, which I think is really great, is the question, how do you best ensure that your interventions have integrity, quality, depth, benefits, learning, etc. So it's not just, we're going to do a training on mindfulness and compassion, here we go, and let's do it. And so how do we bring a mindful approach to that process of experimentation? And there's some really nice core principles there. Clarify your intention, adopting a beginner's mind, build on the knowledge and learning that already exists. I think that's fundamental, because so much is happening in that space, and we really don't want to be a new player just reinventing the wheel. How do you work with what exists, build on that, and work together, in the respective strength of everybody. So this, build your evidence base, know your limitations, embrace diverse and challenging voice, etc., and walk the talk. I think that's very important for us. How do we deepen our own personal practice as individual, being involved in that? So this is areas that has been discussed in the past few months with partners about what we're looking at. It's how do you work on inner transformation, but with teams like connected to the food system, you know, on reducing deforestation, increasing regenerative agriculture, climate change, or social justice for farmers. Stakeholders can be, you know, we're working a lot with multi-stakeholder coalition platforms, collective actions, or working in the entire system. And there's just some examples there for you to get a sense, but I think you've seen that already, many of you in the concept note. So if we go through that, you know, learning journey together, and we are intentional in the way we do action and prototype, you know, outputs may include new insights, new relationships, new capacities, and balancing vision with action through a coherent portfolio of intervention. So it's not like disconnected, we do one training here, one training there. And also new infrastructure for the, you know, what's coming then for COFSA. This is a slide that we prepared like a couple of months back. I'm not sure it's still up to date, but a lot of people have asked, what does it mean to be a core partner? What's my commitment, you know? And it's very difficult at this stage as we co-create to identify exactly the time involvement. But, you know, if you participate in that action learning journey, if we participate as a group in that, and we grow together, you know, I put there, you know, 10 days over a year, but you might participate in prototyping teams if you have an area of interest, you know, with your organization. The idea is to participate as a whole person, so not simply as a representative of an organization or as an expert, because that's obviously only partially representing who you are. And yeah, and then bring the strength of your organization with you, ideally providing startup funding or help identifying fundraising opportunities. The benefits for co-partners is really about co-creation. You know, you can really influence all the strategic vision, orientation, the agenda, the prototypes, and position the new institution at the center of the alliance. I think that's an interesting offer. You know, here there's different examples of benefits, and today we're talking mostly about co-partners, but in the community there's also other type of partnership opportunities like affiliate, etc. And you know, there's always a budget. That's the last slide. There's always a budget associated with all this. You know, what can we do without budget just with the existing team, and what do we need budget for? So I think if we want to be intentional, connected, transformative, and do this process effectively, you know, normally we will need funds for obviously a secretariat, for people to coordinate that exercise, for maybe having people to support typing, a convener to do the action learning journey. But we also interested to do a kind of a prototype incubation, you know, to support the implementation of those solutions that are co-created. You know, you could have for each prototype, you know, an amount of money, you know, 50,000, 100,000, whatever the figure is, that can kickstart the start of activities, and then that can lead to implementation. And so we obviously interested to, we're going to get into the fundraising phase, and we are looking at working with co-partners in co-fundraising in a way that can benefit, you know, different organizations together. You know, so that's a bit the concept. I'll stop here. I'm aware that maybe some words and ideas are a bit really new for some of you, or not. And the idea of the discussion is really about taking a step back from that concept and see, you know, yeah, if you take the question, how can we set up a space that is more intentional, connected, and transformative? You know, one is an action learning journey, but there are many other ways, and we want to hear from you with your experience. You know, if we want to bring this group of co-partners to really connect and do amazing things together, what needs to happen? And then what's your energy into taking this forward? So I didn't look at the question in the chats, You can see one here. How many people do we talk about when you say core partners? Oh yeah, no, you've seen the answer. I think we're looking at 20, 30 people. You know, more than that, it doesn't work. It's really a maximum group of 30 people. I think that's the idea. And if you see the slide with the core partners that have shown an interest, we already have a group of I think 15 to 20 either individual or organization, but we need talking about the questions of inclusion, equity, and all those things that we discussed 2 weeks ago. How do we find a better balance? So it's not only consciousness experts or system change experts, but we bring the change agents here as well. And yeah, I'll stop here. And Joe is gonna lead to the discussion.
Thank you, Nicholas. So yeah, I mean, I think just to sort of put that all in a nutshell, we've been doing a lot of thinking and engaging with people, and I think there's this wish also to move to the stage of actually starting something and learning through doing as opposed to just learning through thinking. So this is a really helpful part of the process, just to sort of connect up between the sort of ideas and the actual action on the ground. So we've got about 10 minutes just to, before we go into breakout groups, to actually put some answers to those 3 questions, whether anyone has something they want to add, or something they would like to clarify, something they think might be missing, or just something they didn't understand. So let's have 10 minutes and just either come off mute, because I can see everyone, or you can put your hand up in the reactions, but I suggest just come off mute. So let's just ask if there are any questions.
I've got a question.
Great, thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, I guess one of my questions is, how wedded are you to the idea of prototyping with individuals from existing organizations versus a strategy of finding what's already going on the ground and supporting that? Great. And is there space for both at some point?
Great question. Nicholas, do you want to answer that?
So could I just also ask, maybe could everyone introduce themselves when they make their first comment?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rachel from the System Sanctuary, and I also co-founded the Finance Innovation Lab in the UK. So I'm bringing that lens of